Hi, my name is Danielle McRoy. I'm the choral director at Half Hollow Hills High School East in Dix Hills, New York, and I'm honored to have been nominated for the first Grammy Music Educator Award. In thinking about my philosophies as a music educator, I realized that my philosophy really comes down to three major areas, and the first and most important, I think, for me is respect. I don't believe that you can be an effective educator without having respect for your students, respect for their backgrounds, respect for the differences in those backgrounds, and in music, for their taste in music, for respecting what they listen to and how they listen to it, even if it doesn't necessarily fit with what you listen to as an educator. The second part of my philosophy has to do with comprehensive musicianship. So for me, it's not enough to simply teach my students the notes and the rhythms and have them spit them back out at concert time. I think it's crucial to, first of all, create literate music students, students who can read and write music and who can listen to music and listen to it critically and analyze it and be able to speak about it in an educated way, not just giving their opinion whether they liked it or not, but to be able to talk about it with a rich musical vocabulary. Part of that comprehensive musicianship includes training them to sing with beautiful voices and to use those voices as a way of expressing themselves through the musical literature. Lastly, the most important part about comprehensive musicianship is helping them make connections with other curriculum areas, so that if they're studying, the Second World War and we're singing something that is in some way affiliated with that, that they're able to make those connections either for themselves or with my help. And lastly, my educational philosophy really stands on the idea that every teacher has to remain a lifelong learner. It's not enough for me to do the same thing day in and day out. That doesn't serve my students well. I need to be a student. I need to put myself in that role so that I'm learning new music and new ways of challenging them and new ways of facilitating their learning. And that's something that I have to do every day, because every student is different and every student really deserves that. My proudest moment as a music teacher is always when students come back after they've graduated and tell me that in some way they've continued to make music in their life. It's always exciting to me when a student goes on to major in music, and I take great pride in that. But the majority of our students will not go on to major in music. They'll go on to major in many other things. But when they go on to do that and they carve out time to continue to make music, either in an a cappella group or a choir or a band or in musical theater, then I know that I've really impacted them, that they've caught the bug of music, and it wasn't something that they just did in high school, but they're inspired to do it hopefully for the rest of their lives. And that always makes me really beyond proud. Challenges, we all have challenges today. For me, my biggest challenge in my life was the loss of my mother when I was in the 8th grade. She was a real champion of my musical life, and it was a devastating loss on so many levels, and musically was one of them. But being involved in music and music education and having phenomenal music teachers, quite honestly, is one of the major reasons I think that I succeeded, was because I had something really worthwhile to focus on, and I had great teachers and a terrific family, of course, but I had great teachers every day who were concerned about me and continued to nurture me musically and emotionally through a really devastating time. So that's something that I carry with me, both the good and the bad of that time period. My my vision for a great music education program is one where students are challenged every single day and exposed to new things on a regular basis, but where they are also listened to, where they are able to speak intelligently and express their own opinions without fear of being wrong. And I know that I create a classroom where students aren't afraid to be themselves, where they're able to ask questions and able to express opinions, and where music is used really to cross boundaries. You know, I look at my students who come from very different walks of life, very different socioeconomic backgrounds, races, different religions, and they are forming friendships that I'm not sure they would have formed if they didn't have the underlying connection of music. And of course, I think it's so important to educate our students so that they're musically literate and culturally literate. But for me, the value of music education is helping students cross those boundaries and develop their own voices, both singing and otherwise, so that they can really express themselves. And lastly, great music educators should, again, still be lifelong learners and hopefully are still performing in some capacity. I still perform myself as a singer, and I know that that makes me a better teacher on a daily basis. What kind of impact I've had on students? From a practical standpoint, I've gotten, for many, many years, lots of students accepted into state and regional and national conferences and festivals, and I've had lots of students go on to study in terrific music education programs and performing programs at the undergraduate level, and that's terrific. But for me, I think the thing that makes me feel like I do something really worthwhile every day is that my students tell me that I help them be themselves, and that through music they've been able to express themselves and find their place in the world and find a social group. And I fight for them every day. I tell them all the time I'm their greatest champion. Often the youngest generation is the one who gets blamed for everything, and I tell them all the time that I defend them. My experience with teenagers and younger has been simply fantastic. That if you open the door for them to new experiences, they will walk through it and they will absolutely exceed your every expectation. So I'm thrilled to have made that impact on students, and I hope to do it for many, many years to come. Thank you.